It was October 10th, 2025, around 9:43 in the morning, when seismographs began registering something much larger. This time, the epicenter was at sea, about 12.5 miles, 20 kilometers, east of the city of Mindanao, in Davao Oriental Province, in southern Mindanao, and the magnitude 7.4. Let me translate this for you. A magnitude 7.4 earthquake releases energy equivalent to about 15,000 atomic bombs, like the one at Hiroshima. It's a simply brutal amount of energy. The second earthquake was deeper, at 36 miles, 58 kilometers deep, but even so, the impact was devastating. The tremor lasted between 30 and 40 seconds. Imagine 30 seconds with the ground moving beneath your feet, walls swaying, objects falling. Richie Duyen, a disaster agent who was in Mindanao at the time of the earthquake, gave an interview that gave me chills. He's 46 years old and said this was the strongest earthquake he'd ever felt in his entire life. "We couldn't stand up," he reported. And look, we're talking about someone who lives in the Philippines, a country that registers about 7,000 earthquakes per year. So when someone who's used to tremors says they've never felt anything like it, you pay attention. Philippine authorities immediately issued a tsunami alert. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology warned of waves up to 10 feet, 3 meters, above normal tide level, and about 500 families in coastal areas were evacuated in a hurry to higher ground. And here's data that shows the dimension of this event. The alert extended for 186 miles, 300 kilometers, along the coast. 186 miles. Fortunately, the waves didn't cause major damage, but the scare was real. 7 people lost their lives, including 3 miners who were trapped when a tunnel collapsed in the mountains west of Mindanao. The earthquake damaged hospitals, schools, bridges, and the facade of a century-old church, leaving deep cracks in main roads. Now comes the part that really worries scientists. According to Phivolcs data, this magnitude 7.4 earthquake was followed by 112 aftershocks in the hours and days that followed. 112. The largest of them had magnitude 5.9 and happened just 7 minutes after the main tremor. Think about it. The population of Davao Oriental had barely processed the first impact when the earth shook forcefully again, and it wasn't just once. There were more than 10 tremors above magnitude 4.0 registered in the first hours. This sequence of aftershocks is normal after major earthquakes, but what draws attention here is their frequency and intensity. And then you might be thinking, well, but that was in October, it's already passed. But no, man, the Philippines had no respite. We move forward to January 2026, 3 months later, and on January 7th, a new earthquake of magnitude 6.4 struck the Davao region again. The epicenter was 79 miles, 127 kilometers, east of the city at a depth of 22 miles, 35 kilometers. This event generated more than 10 aftershocks, and the pattern continues repeating. It's as if the Earth is releasing accumulated energy at an increasingly intense pace. So let's pause here because I need to explain to you why this is happening. Why are the Philippines the target of so many earthquakes? The answer lies in something called the Pacific Ring of Fire, and when you understand what this is, everything will make sense. The Ring of Fire is a horseshoe-shaped belt that runs 25,000 miles, 40,000 kilometers around the Pacific Ocean. It goes from the Andes Mountains in South America, rises along the west coast of Central America and North America, crosses Alaska, descends along the coast of Siberia, passes through Japan, Indonesia, the Philippines, and goes all the way to New Zealand and Antarctica. It's like a giant necklace of volcanoes and seismic zones around the world's largest ocean. And here are the numbers that will impress you. The Ring of Fire concentrates 75 to 80% of the world's active volcanoes. That's right. 3 out of every 4 volcanoes that can erupt today are located in this belt. But it doesn't stop there. 90% of the earthquakes that happen on the planet occur in the Ring of Fire. 90%. This means that out of every 10 earthquakes registered anywhere in the world, 9 happen in this region. Seismographs capture some type of seismic activity in the Ring of Fire every 5 minutes. Let that sink in a bit. Every 5 minutes, somewhere in this 25,000-mile belt, the Earth is shaking. But why does this happen? The explanation lies in tectonic plates, these gigantic pieces of Earth's crust that float on the hot magma of the planet's interior. The Philippines are in a particularly complicated position because the archipelago sits exactly where several plates meet. The Pacific Plate, the Philippine Sea Plate, the Eurasian Plate, and other smaller plates are all converging in this region. And when I say converging, I'm talking about a violent process called subduction. Let me explain how it works because it's fascinating and at the same time frightening. Imagine two gigantic tectonic plates moving toward each other. One of them, the Pacific Plate, is an oceanic plate made of denser and heavier rocks, rich in iron and magnesium. The other is a continental plate or another less dense oceanic plate. When they meet, the denser plate has nowhere to go except to dive beneath the other. It literally sinks into the Earth's mantle in a slow but continuous process. As it sinks, the intense pressure and heat cause the rock to melt, generating magma. This creates a system of deep oceanic trenches, like the Philippine Trench, which at some points reaches more than 33,000 feet, 10,000 meters deep. It's deeper than Mount Everest is tall. And these trenches aren't just holes in the ocean. They're zones of weakness in Earth's crust where energy constantly accumulates. And from time to time, when the pressure gets too great, it needs to be released. And that's when earthquakes happen. What makes the situation in the Philippines even more critical is the depth at which these subduction zones are. In some regions, like in Samar and Davao, the deepest points of the subduction zones are just 31 miles, 50 kilometers, away from inhabited areas. 31 miles is practically nothing in geological terms. This means that when energy is released down there, it hits the surface with great force. That's why relatively small earthquakes, of magnitude 5 or 6, manage to cause so much damage. They're very close to the surface. And there's more. The Philippines' seismic history shows this isn't a new activity. The worst earthquake registered in the region happened on August 15, 1918, more than 100 years ago. It was a magnitude 8.3 event in the Cebu Sea, near Mindanao. 8.3. To give you an idea, each point on the magnitude scale represents a 32-fold increase in released energy. So a magnitude 8.3 earthquake releases more than 1,000 times the energy of a magnitude 6.91. That 1918 event generated a tsunami that crossed the Pacific Ocean and was documented in Japan, on the other side of the ocean. If you were impressed by this story, if you want to understand more about how our planet works, about these invisible forces that shape continents and open oceans, then you need to subscribe to the channel. Every week I bring stories like this, always based on official data, verified sources, real science, without sensationalism, without exaggeration, just the facts with the right measure of impact they deserve. Hit the bell because I'll continue closely monitoring what's happening in the Philippines and in other regions of the Ring of Fire. And if you know someone who lives in a seismic risk area, share this video. Knowledge can save lives, literally.